I was honestly hoping I would get picked, you know? I wanted to, actually get to experience what other people have. I've heard some good, some bad, but I'm one of those people where I have to experience it myself. And it was honestly one of the best experiences I can say I've ever had.
I'm Richard Paez, a judge on the United States Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit. And I want to thank all of you for answering the notice you received for federal jury service. While not all of you will be selected, your presence here today makes it possible for the court to select a jury from a representative sample of our community. If it wasn't for people like you, we would not be able to make real the Constitution's guarantee of the right to trial by jury. This right is included in our Bill of Rights and guaranteed by the 6th and 7th Amendments to the United States Constitution. It applies to all criminal trials and many civil cases.
When I got my jury summons in the mail, I sort of rolled my eyes and thought, they're still coming after me. I had been a stay-at-home mom for a number of years with young kids, and I had deferred several times. But my kids are really old enough now, and I realized this was probably a good time for me to serve.
When I first got the jury summons in the mail, I was very nervous. I thought about shredding it and acting like I never got it. Didn't do that, responded to the questionnaire, and got selected.
I can understand how someone who gets a notice to come down to court and see if they're needed to serve as a juror might say or think, gee, I don't want to be bothered. What if they don't pick me? I'll have gone down there for nothing. But I think most of us realize that you might be yourself in court someday. You might need to have issues addressed by a jury drawn from your own community.
When I got my jury summons, I was really excited. It was the first time that I'd ever received a jury summons, and I am actually 36 years old. So I was very excited. I wanted to sign up for it. I wanted to be a part of it. I wanted to learn what everything was about. And I knew that it was my turn to actually do something and be a part of something that was very unique.
When we first got our Constitution and started having jury trials, only white males, men who owned property, could serve as jurors. And as recently as the early 1970s, only 6 or 7 years before I became a Supreme Court justice, there were still states in the United States that excused a woman from jury service anytime she did not want to serve. But by including a large spectrum of the community in the jury pool, today we're assured of a broad perspective in the jury box. We want a full sampling of the community because these are the people to whom we entrust our lives, our honor, and our most important issues.
Remain seated. Come to order.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Susan Ilston, and I'm the judge who will be presiding over the trial, which will take place in this courtroom over the next few days. Welcome. First, let me tell you thank you for being here. We couldn't function in our system without the assistance of people like yourselves. So first, let me tell you what will happen over the next period of time in this courtroom. First, I will have some questions to ask all of you. After that, then the lawyers will have an opportunity to ask you a few questions too. Before I ask you any questions, though, I want to find out about your availability. And when I'm asking you about that, one thing you should bear in mind is that after you have heard the entire case, then you'll have a chance to go back in the jury room and deliberate. So the first series of questions I want to ask you is whether there are any of you for whom sitting on this case for the length of time that we've estimated would be a genuine hardship. And I don't mean an inconvenience, because it will be inconvenient to all of you. But if there is any of you for whom sitting would be so inconvenient and difficult that you feel you just really wouldn't be able to pay attention to the case and give the parties the fair trial they're entitled to, anybody who feels that way, please raise your hand and let me know. All right, yes, sir.
I am Mr. Little, and my wife broke her ankle 2 weeks ago, and I'm taking care of her. I have to be around to take her to the bathroom and other things around the house. She cannot put any weight on her ankle. And right now it's very difficult as we have no other help and I have to be there. So I don't think I can take that much time off.
Do you have a job, sir, outside the home?
No, I'm retired.
All right, thank you. Yes, ma'am. What's your name?
Ms. Green?
Yes, ma'am, Miss Green.
Your Honor, my husband owns a business and I'm the sole employee. If I were to be out of the office for that length of time, there's no one to replace me.
What kind of a business is it?
He sells computer equipment, and I'm the one who handles all the bookkeeping, answering phones, sending out correspondence, really anything having to do with the office.
Thank you. Anybody else? And by the way, today is the day to tell me. Next week would be a really bad time to tell me. Yes, ma'am.
I do not know if it's a real concern, but I have a trip scheduled for 3 weeks next month.
All right, thank you, Ms. Ruiz. All right, anyone else with a scheduling hardship you want to tell me about?
For more than 200 years, our system of justice has depended on the common sense and sound judgment of citizens, with no stake in the cases they are called upon to decide, other than to render a fair and just decision in light of the governing law. As jurors, your decisions will be important, maybe affecting the defendant's liberty, or millions of dollars. But whatever the issue, remember that each and every decision matters a great deal to the people involved in the case. What we ask of you is to bring your sound judgment and an open mind into the courtroom so that you and your fellow jurors will be able to render a fair and impartial verdict should you be chosen.
We understood that our decision had a major impact on the life of this individual, and we really didn't take it lightly. We felt like it was our responsibility to come at it with all of our talents available to us. And so it was definitely an experience that reaffirmed my feelings about how our democracy works.
One of the things that impressed me about the group that I served with was, of course, we came in as complete strangers, but what I was impressed about was how, not knowing anything about the case, the people serving in it, and how open-minded, how impartial they could be.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, at this point, I have a set of questions, and I'm going to require each of you to answer these questions out loud and in front of each other. But do not fear, you will know the answer to the questions. If you have a spouse or a partner, what does that person do? Do you have children? What are your hobbies? Have you been in the military? Have you served on a jury before? Questions like that.
I'm a self-employed carpenter. I'm a member of the Horsemen's Association. My hobbies are golf and horses. I'm single because my wife is deceased and I have a 9-year-old son. I've never been on a jury and never been in the military.
Can you think of any reason, sir, that you can't be a fair and impartial juror in this case?
No.
I'm a legal secretary. I have a son and daughter. I'm divorced, and I was a juror twice on other cases.
Those 2 jury trials that you sat on, can you remember if they were criminal or civil trials?
Criminal.
All right. Now, please don't tell me what happened, but did each of those trials reach verdicts?
Yeah.
Is there anything about either of those jury experiences that would make it hard for you to be a fair juror in this case, do you think?
Just that it's hard to make decisions about other people's lives.
Well, that's the hard part. But is there anything specific about this case that would make it hard for you to sit, do you think?
No.
The trial that I served on showed me and taught me that you can get 12 individuals together from different backgrounds, different ethnicities, and you can all come together and make a unanimous decision. And we didn't have one decision to make. We had 50 or so decisions to make on my particular trial. So it took a while to go through our whole process. It's reassuring knowing that's the system we have.
Ladies and gentlemen, is there anybody who has trouble either seeing or hearing that we'll need to make accommodations for? Yes, ma'am.
Well, I wear a hearing aid, but so far I've been able to hear everything that's been said.
All right, well, that's great. And what you need to do is just make sure you tell us if there's anything that you can't hear, and we'll repeat it or say it more loudly so that you do.
Okay, I will.
And ladies and gentlemen, as I told you before, it's really important that juries decide the case just based on the evidence that's received in the trial. That means that you can't read newspapers about the case, you can't watch television, you can't listen to the radio or do any research of that sort about the case. That also means that you can't talk to people about the case, which also means you can't talk to your family. When you go home, your family will be curious to know what you're doing. You may tell them you're on a jury. Beyond that, however, you may not discuss the case with them, and you may not let them discuss the case with you. Is there anybody who could not follow the court's rule that you may not discuss this case with anyone else until the case is over? Yes, sir.
I'm used to discussing my day with my wife, and I don't know how easy it will be to not discuss the case.
Well, it may not be easy. In fact, it's going to be difficult for everyone to impose this sort of cone of silence on yourself during the time that the trial's in session. But if the court orders you not to talk with your wife or anyone else about the case until it's over, do you think if you're selected for this jury, you could follow the court's order in that respect?
I can do my best.
And do you understand, sir, that if you break your promise in that regard, then these other people here won't be able to do their job and the jury won't be able to do its work?
When I got home, the first thing I said when I went in the door was with my wife and my daughter, do not ask, don't look up, don't say nothing to me, because if you do, you jeopardize me going to jail.
My daughters, they wanted to know, they were like, they're teenagers, they're 17 and 18, and they were like, Mom, what is the case about? Well, I'm sorry, girls, I can't talk about it. They're like, aw, come on, Mom. I said, nope, no can do.
I followed the judge's directions, and I found it easier as the days went by to actually not say anything, especially until after the case was over.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, not only do you have to promise me that you won't discuss this matter at home with your family, you also can't communicate about the case in any way with anyone on any sort of device. This means that you can't go on the internet, you can't go on chat rooms, you can't go on bulletin boards. It means you can't go on Facebook, you can't go on Google, you can't communicate with any of these wonderful social networking methods that we have these days, or even any that they should invent between now and the end of the trial. You simply may not communicate either to or from anybody about the case until it is over. Is there anyone who can't promise the court that you will avoid doing that during the course of this trial?
Not being able to actually use the media to find out what was going on would have been extremely hard, because of course when you don't know something or when you hear about it, you say, what's that really about? And you Google it. Or you YouTube it. And everything is at your fingertips. So it would have been extremely hard for me, but I was willing to do it. I was gonna bite the bullet and do it.
After sitting and listening to the instructions not to listen or read any media information, I feel like that was a great idea because everybody is on the same page. No juror has something in their mind because they heard something else. We all start at the same page, so we all end in a conclusion on the same page.
In addition, until the case is submitted to you at the end of the case for deliberations, it's important that you not talk to each other about the case. You'll have opportunities to be all together in the jury room, but it's important that you not discuss the case until it's over. The reason for this is sometimes as we talk about things, we begin to make up our minds about the things that we discuss, and you are not to make up your minds until you have heard all the evidence in the case. So it's important that you not discuss the matter with your fellow jurors until the case is submitted to you for deliberation. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, the attorneys have a chance to ask you a few questions, and you must answer their questions as truthfully as you have answered my questions. At this point, it's the opportunity of the plaintiff to go first because the plaintiff has the burden of proof in this case. All right, Mr. Brown, you may proceed.
As the judge said, we appreciate you being here, and I just have a few questions. First of all, if anyone in the jury box has ever been a party to a lawsuit, could you raise your hand? Let's see, Mr. Stone, what happened?
It was surprising that it went so smoothly with the 12 people that we had and the 12 different lifestyles, ethnicities, backgrounds that we had, life experiences. So everybody really got a chance to give their 2 cents and voice their opinion.
I ended up being picked as the foreperson, never been on a trial, never been picked, and then I ended up being the foreperson. Everybody's like, oh, you can do it, you're the talkative one. And I was pumped for it because I wanted to get everybody's opinion and get people stoked to be involved in it, because I think it's an important thing.
Should you be chosen to serve on a jury, I am confident you will find it to be a challenging, stimulating, and most of all, worthwhile experience. Many jurors feel a sense of pride at having fulfilled this vitally important civic duty. Once again, thank you for being here and for giving us your attention.
I wanted to serve, and I was very excited because I felt it was an honor to be picked and to be able to help my country.
If someone came up to me and said, "Oh, I just got a jury summons, I don't want to go," I would say, you need to rethink that. It can be a really positive, educational, inspiring experience, and I would describe the experience that I had and encourage them to serve.
You get to meet new people. You get to actually learn about a case. You get to be in front of a judge. It's a new experience, and I think learning the new experience and, maybe even becoming the foreperson as even somebody, my age, it was just an amazing experience, and I would tell people not to shy away from it.
I felt that it was more than just a duty to sit in that chair and just say give my verdict. It was literally a way for me to be able to pay back society for what I would want them to do for me one day.
It was great actually seeing that, okay, this is a fair process. Now I see what it's all about. And yes, I do want to be a part of this one day.
It's the only way we know to make sure that people are treated fairly is to hear the evidence against them and have impartial people evaluate that process. Without that, I think we've lost our soul.
I feel, other than serving in the service, this was the best thing that could happen to me.
If a friend of mine came to me and told me, and this actually happened during our trial, that they had gotten a jury summons as well, I told them, go and see what it's all about. It's worth checking out. It's inconvenient, but it's our duty. It's what our country is built on. And again, if I were in that position, I would want a jury of my peers deciding my fate, not just one person, but a jury of my peers.
Our jury trial system makes our American citizens more of stakeholders in what happens in our country, more so than in other countries. It's one of the reasons I think we should really treasure our trial jury system.